My heroes as a kid were the Kuchar brothers, George and Mike Kuchar, and they started making 8mm melodramas in their mom's Bronx apartment using thrift shop costumes and basically stolen soundtracks from Hollywood movies, and great titles like Pussy on a Hot Tin Roof and Hold Me While I'm Naked, Sins of the Fleshopods. And they're still making these movies today, and they've inspired young kids for 4 generations really to make great movies, and I really think they should get the MacArthur Award.
The Kuchar brothers, George and Mike, were trained artists as well as underground filmmakers, writing, directing and/or starring in several self-funded movies. Though it was through art that they met the filmmaker Curt McDowell.
Curt, you make X-rated films, but they're very different from most of the commercial X-rated films that you would see in theaters around town. What do you feel is the real difference between your work and that other kind of X film?
Well, the X-rated market, everybody assumes that X-rated, for some reason, everybody's taking X-rated films as a category, and they feel like the heights they can reach in the X-rated category is Behind the Green Door or Deep Throat, because those are the ones that have been successful. But I didn't approach it with the X-rated category in mind. I just approached my own, what I wanted to either explore or things that I was afraid of or whatever my reasons for filming. Sometimes it goes into what they call X-rated things because it happens to be explicit, but that isn't, I'm not trying to work in an X-rated category. It just, someone else is putting that label on my films, a big X.
Curt and his composer, Mark Ellinger, together came up with the idea for a movie.
It was this kind of idealistic vision of a world wherein people were completely unabashed and unafraid of expressing their sexuality. Curt and I both like thunderstorms. We both like film noir. We both like black and white film, more than color, much more than color, and old dark house type mysteries. So based on all of those elements, there came this strange old farmhouse in the middle of the Nebraska prairie, in the middle of a thunderstorm, wherein all of these people get stranded with a strange woman who lives there by herself. All of these elements and the basic story outline, Curt and I worked out before we gave it to George, who added a gorilla.
George Kuchar was given the task of writing the script, and this is how one of the craziest films I have ever seen was born, Thundercrack.
Yes, we're on our way to St. Barnaby's School for Crippled Children.
In Nebraska City?
That's right. Have you ever been there when the circus was in town? Did you ever see the kids poking at the animals with their crutches? Have you ever seen an ostrich run down by a wheelchair? Did you ever hear what it sounds like to hear a tiger's head crushed by the blows of an arm and a broken arm in a cast?
Lord have mercy!
If you can imagine scenes like that, plus some graphic but not very erotic sex scenes, then you'll have a good idea of what this film is like.
And if you ever have a chance to see it, you'll see George in several capacities, as a writer and as an actor, in this wonderfully foul and degrading film.
Thundercrack is a strange movie. It's kind of a tortured marriage of porno and comedy.
A group of travellers take refuge in the home of eccentric widow Gert Hammond during a violent thunderstorm. As the night unfolds, the gang reveals secrets, engage in strange sexual encounters, and discover disturbing truths about the house.
Yeah, sure, but what about you and that gorilla?
And there is also a gorilla.
Well, then we women here tonight are safe if that gorilla only goes ape over men.
No, you're not. You see, the relationship soured rather quickly when Mrs. Harlan got into the ring.
This movie asks quite a lot of its largely amateur cast.
As far as the explicit sexual scenes that I portray of Gert, I felt that was an opportunity to draw a character with great intimacy. And it was an opportunity to reveal very private, very personal moments, and that was the challenge of playing a character in which there would be some explicit sexual material.
On my first viewing, I was totally unaware of the explicit masturbation, heterosexual and homosexual sex scenes in this film. And the fact that they come largely in one block about 40 minutes into the movie, it could lead to mood whiplash so harsh that it will leave permanent damage on the unprepared.
Well, you know, Curt had a different approach. He thought of sex as sort of a celebration or joyful union of things, and I always looked at it as a horror in people's lives, full of obsessions and stuff that they can't control, and therefore the script was sort of colored in that direction. And I always believed in sex was too powerful to actually show in the movies, actual humping scenes and stuff like that, because it overtook the plot. You forgot about what was going on. And so this was an interesting bridge, like, could we make people talk and hump at the same time? And I said, yeah, why not? Let's try it. And so therefore, people, highbrow people, some of them liked the picture, and those who liked the humping, some of them enjoyed the humping. And once in a while you found an audience that liked them grouped together.
Visually, the film is a bit up and down. Some scenes being well shot in moody black and white, others being under or overlit. The editing is far from smooth, cuts being made to make the most out of the shot footage rather than to create a rhythm. You could, and I have heard others argue, that this is a punk rock aesthetic, sticking its fingers up to the formal style of mainstream cinema, which may or may not be the intention, but either way, it looks amateurish.
Listen, kid, I vowed before embarking on this trip that once I started, I was never looking back. Now I'm going to Waco, Texas, to that great giant girdle factory that stands like a mammoth mausoleum to the memory of my dead wife.
This was not helped by the fact that for a long time the movie could only be seen in beat-up and edited versions. That was until the release of the Synapse Films restored Blu-ray.
So this presentation of this movie, it is the fullest version. Like I say, 1975, it's region-free. All the stuff on here, you get a Blu-ray, you get the movie on the Blu-ray, and you also get the bonus DVD. So really everything about this movie is on here.
And I have sourced a lot of the interviews used in this video from that disc.
So it turns out that you were one of the forerunners of underground films in a way in New York in the early 70s. What was that like?
Well, you know, I was making movies. There was also another guy who was making pictures, and he was making CinemaScope pictures in 8mm. He had a lens that spread out a scene. And so there was a lot of us making pictures. A friend of mine liked cannibalism. And I think there's something about the Bronx that, I don't know if George Romero comes from the Bronx.
Or Cleveland, maybe.
Yeah, Cleveland. They're into cannibalism, and so we were all making movies, and our outlets would be parties. We would go to each other's houses and have a party.
George Kuchar's films were not made for a wide audience. He made them to entertain friends at parties. But they have a charm and an invention to them that films with 100 times the budget do not. What I really like about this film is that when they need an establishing shot for a location that they clearly don't have, George just draws it. There is Gert's house and the circus. Even the elephant is just a cutout behind a drawn door. They clearly didn't have something realistic, so they went in the opposite direction and created something so fake that it had to be a stylistic choice.
I shouldn't be tooting around mammals on a night like this. Why the hell didn't that crummy circus give me the amphibian cage? Pipe down, Samson! You might be king of the jungle in Africa, but in this circus you're nothing but a bozo.
The opening sequence set in the cars in the rainstorm is really nicely shot and atmospheric, but there are so many elements of this film which are totally bizarre that it might be quicker to list the things which are not.
Well, that's the thing that's the problem with it, is that people who think it's an X-rated film by the fact that it's on the X-rated page in the paper, they go and they want to see what all the other X-rated films are, and of course they're either disappointed or are pleasantly surprised, but they're never getting what they expected. Yet if you call it a drama, or it's been described as so many different things, comedy and drama, A Long Day's Journey into the Night of the Living Dead is one of the descriptions of it. And when people get these, when they figure out ahead of time what it is and then they go and see it, it's always a surprise because this film defies category, you know?
The film is 160 minutes long. No one seems to mention that. But if it sounds like your sort of thing, I do recommend the Blu-ray. It can be quite expensive getting this imported to the UK, but it is worth it for the extra features, particularly the documentary It Came From Kuchar. If you've enjoyed this video, do please press the like, share and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to help me making my own movie, you can send me the price of a cup of coffee via this website. I'm Scott Kingsnorth and I'm making a movie.